Today is Wednesday, August 27th. What to know about what could be the biggest Social Security leak ever, all at the hands of the federal government. Also, the fake active shooter warnings that have caused real panic at American universities this week. Plus, we're talking about a dramatic display of nature that played out over Arizona, how Cracker Barrel changed its logo again. And is this America's version of the royal wedding? We'll tell you all about Taylor Swift's engagement. Those stories and even more news coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Sensitive data from more than 300 million Americans was put at risk. At least that's according to the Social Security Administration's chief data officer. He filed a whistleblower complaint saying the Department of Government Efficiency, aka DOGE, made quite a few missteps. For example, he says DOGE staffers knowingly bypassed safeguards, went around a court order, and created a copy of the Social Security Administration's entire collection of data on the U.S. public and put it on the cloud. With that, the Social Security Administration apparently had no oversight of who had access to it. The data included people's names, birth dates, banking information, medical diagnoses, and more. Now, to be clear, the whistleblower did not say there was definitely a hack, but warned that, at the least, Americans' information was put in a vulnerable position. In response, the Social Security Administration spokesperson confirmed the agency was not aware of any breach and said all personal data is actually secure. The whistleblower's complaint was sent to lawmakers as well as the Office of Special Counsel that investigates these kinds of complaints. This actually is not the first time similar issues have been brought up. In fact, the last Social Security administrator left her job after a disagreement over DOGE trying to access sensitive records. Unions also brought a lawsuit over DOGE's access to personal data. But the U.S. Supreme Court cleared the way for the department to get all the information, at least while the case was still being considered in lower courts. Democrats are already calling for more investigation. Republicans say they're looking into it. An unusual lawsuit that pitted the Trump administration against every federal judge in Maryland was just thrown out. The Justice Department under Trump sued the judges over an order that said immigrants contesting their deportations could get a 2-day reprieve. That way, the judges would have time to sort through the legal issues. Well, the Trump administration called it judicial overreach and sued. A judge from out of state had to be brought in to oversee this case. And it was actually a judge President Trump appointed from Virginia. But he still tossed the suit, saying it violated the separation of powers laid out in the Constitution. Plus, he reprimanded the DOJ for choosing not to appeal certain cases, but to instead go with what he called a more confrontational path, and for attacking judges who rule against the White House in any case. It was similar to a ruling from a federal appeals court judge who's actually considered an icon of the conservative legal movement. He wrote that the executive and judicial branches were clashing in a way that's only going to drag both of them down. The Trump administration has sought to appeal both rulings, saying they're keeping the federal government from properly enforcing immigration laws. Stay tuned. Over the last couple of weeks, at least a dozen universities kicked off the fall semester with terrifying warnings. They all had to send out run-and-hide alerts about possible shooters on campus. But police administrators say the reports were just hoaxes. Some were swatting calls, which is what happens when someone uses temporary phone numbers and voice-altering apps to create chaos. A few callers even included background noise that mimicked gunfire. At this point, it's not clear if all the incidents are connected or what the motive may have been. But one worry is these hoaxes will make students dismiss warnings that in the future might turn out to be real. Another is that law enforcement resources are pulled away from real crimes, and in a worst-case scenario, there can be deadly mistakes. The FBI now says it's helping with these local investigations. The U.S. Coast Guard offloaded a historic amount of cocaine this week. Specifically, it captured more than 76,000 pounds of narcotics, valued at about $473 million, all at a seaport in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. To put it into perspective, the Coast Guard said there was enough cocaine to fatally overdose the entire population of Florida, and it was the most drugs the agency has ever offloaded. It was seized in 19 different stops in the Eastern Pacific Ocean and Caribbean Sea this summer. 34 suspected drug traffickers were detained. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is still promising to overhaul the Coast Guard, in part by boosting its workforce. A massive cloud of dust engulfed the Phoenix, Arizona area. In a huge, incredibly strong dust storm called a haboob, dust darkened the sky. The dust was blinding, and it really looked like an apocalyptic movie as it spread over cities. But the severe weather did not end there. It was followed by a monsoon storm that knocked out power for thousands of people. Flights were also delayed, and the storm caused damage to Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. There is still a chance of storms in central Arizona today before the threat lets up for the rest of the week. More news is still coming up, but first, thanks to our sponsor, Wix.com. Have you ever had a great business idea, but kind of felt stuck because you didn't know where to start or how to build a website? That's where Wix.com comes in. With Wix, you can create a professional, business-ready site in just minutes, literally. Their AI site builder asks a few questions, then generates a personalized site that fits your goals, complete with beautiful design, unique visuals, and even the option to automate marketing. If you'd rather start from a template, though, Wix offers more than 2,000 designer-made options that are completely customizable. The drag-and-drop tools make it fun and simple to build something that looks polished and unique. And beyond just looks, Wix gives you the tools to actually run a business online, from selling products to booking services, all built in. Wix has been a pioneer in website technology for almost 20 years now, helping millions of people take their ideas from just a thought to something real and successful. Ready to create your own website? Go to Wix.com. That's Wix.com to start building your website today. Thanks to Wix for sponsoring our show. Now, back to the news. SpaceX is celebrating the latest test flight of its Starship rocket, aka the most powerful rocket ever built. This was its 10th launch, and it was overwhelmingly successful. The Starship deployed its first batch of mock Starlink satellites in space and tested new heat shield tiles as it came back through Earth's atmosphere. Those were considered key developments that had been held up by 3 back-to-back launch failures earlier this year. Not only did SpaceX pull them off this time, but it was able to end the mission by landing on the ocean's surface. But then, the rocket exploded. Much is riding on this kind of progress, though, since NASA is planning to eventually use a version of the Starship to take astronauts to the surface of the moon, and one day, Mars. There's still a long to-do list for SpaceX before that can happen, so many more prototypes are ready for their own test launches soon. The Trump administration is taking steps to make sure all commercial truck drivers in the U.S. speak English. The Transportation Department just told states if they don't enforce language proficiency standards, they'll lose millions of dollars in federal funding. And last week, the U.S. stopped issuing all worker visas for commercial truck drivers, at least for now. This latest push comes in response to a recent fatal crash in Florida, since authorities say it was caused by an immigrant who didn't speak English or have legal authorization to be in the U.S. The federal government issued the driver a work permit, but the Trump administration is specifically blaming the Democrat-led states of California, Washington, and New Mexico for the crash. Officials say the driver actually obtained commercial licenses from California and Washington, and that last month he was pulled over for speeding in New Mexico and was not given a roadside English test. Those states insist they are following federal laws already, but the Trump administration is now giving them 30 days to comply or lose funding. To be continued. Cracker Barrel has decided to go back to its old logo. It comes in the face of backlash we told you about earlier this week when the company tried to change the logo that features a drawing of a man in overalls leaning against a barrel and replace it with a more simple one that only included the name of the restaurant. Some customers and conservative lawmakers took issue with it, accusing Cracker Barrel of abandoning tradition and Southern heritage. There were calls for boycotts and for the company's CEO to resign. President Trump even weighed in yesterday, saying the change should go back to the old logo. And now the White House says Cracker Barrel's executives listened to what Trump had to say. Trump also shared a version of the original Cracker Barrel logo that looks like him sitting next to an oil barrel and the slogan, America First. The Venice Film Festival kicks off today, marking the start of the fall film season. And it's especially exciting since it's known as the place where many potential Oscar-winning films debut. This year, the lineup includes a new take on Frankenstein, starring Jacob Elordi and Oscar Isaac, political thriller House of Dynamite, set during a fictional national security threat at the White House, comedic drama Jay Kelly, in which George Clooney plays a movie star in an identity crisis, and many more. All the movies will be competing for the coveted Golden Lion Award. Big stars are going to be there too, like Julia Roberts, Emma Stone, Idris Elba, Cate Blanchett, Jude Law, the list goes on. The Venice Film Festival runs through September 6th. Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married. And that was the Instagram caption from music icon Taylor Swift and football star Travis Kelce as they announced their engagement. The famous couple shared pictures of themselves surrounded by flowers with Kelce on one knee. In an interview, Kelce's father said it happened at his son's home in the Kansas City area almost 2 weeks ago. Kelce apparently surprised Swift by saying he wanted to go outside for a glass of wine before dinner, but instead of wine, it was an enchanted garden proposal. The pictures also show Swift's new engagement ring that Kelce reportedly designed with a well-known jewelry designer. Meta says the post broke an Instagram record with 1 million reposts in 6 hours and more than 14 million likes in the first hour. And the Ralph Lauren dress Swift is wearing in the pictures sold out quickly. Well wishes are still pouring in from all around the world. Everyone from President Trump to the British royal family to some of the biggest names in sports and entertainment have offered their congratulations. So far, no word on wedding plans, but we already know it's going to be a busy year for the couple. Swift has already announced her 12th album coming out this fall, and Kelce is embarking on his 13th season in the NFL. And that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a quick break for our sponsor. Getting kids to eat healthy is not always easy. That's why I'm grateful for Hiya. I can feel good that my 4-year-old is getting the nutritional support his body needs, whether he's in an eat anything phase or pizza and PB&J's only please phase. He loves taking his Hiya Children's vitamins and probiotics every day, and he's actually excited to do it. In fact, he'll remind me if I haven't given them to him yet. And I love that he's getting what his body needs without all the sugar and junk that can come in other kids' vitamins. And if you're tired of battling your kids to eat their greens, Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens Plus Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with more than 55 whole food ingredients to support brain power, development, and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. And we've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy. The deal is not available on their regular website, so go to hiyahealth.com/newsworthy and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. The evidence is now even clearer. Artificial intelligence is making it especially hard for young workers to get certain jobs. There has been anecdotal evidence of this for a while, but little hard proof. So Stanford economists looked at data from millions of employees at tens of thousands of companies with information about their specific jobs and ages. And what they found was employment for workers aged 22 to 25 has dropped by 16% in certain AI-impacted jobs. For example, software development and customer support. But it's not the same for older workers in those fields who have more on-the-job experience. It's also not the case for younger workers in other fields like in healthcare, where AI tends to help rather than replace workers. Now, one of the big questions is whether AI will continue to mostly impact entry-level jobs, or if higher-skilled workers will also be at risk as the tech improves. Another one is whether industries will struggle to find the next generation of experienced workers, since people can't seem to get their first jobs. So what artificial intelligence will mean for the labor market in the long term still remains to be seen. Thank you so much for listening today and for sharing the show. You can further support our work here and get access to ad-free episodes by becoming a Newsworthy Insider. Start your free trial at thenewsworthy.com/insider. And Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to episodes of The Newsworthy ad-free in the Wondery app. We'll be back tomorrow with the latest news to know. Until then, have a great day.